Well, in one sentence, what we inherited was a totally broken public education system. And we began to notice that during the campaign, when many of the young people that were going around with us campaigning would tell us that they have completed primary school or completed secondary school, but they could not write their names. And I remember very clearly that I could write my name when I was in class 3 or class 2 of primary school. I could write my own name, but here we had in Kaduna State young people that said they had primary school leaving certificate or even junior secondary education, but they couldn't write their names. Forget about speaking or constructing 2 sentences in English. So that's when I began to get the sense that there was a more serious crisis in public education than we thought. And by the time we took over, we found that even though Kaduna State was ranked 12th in terms of educational attainment by YWEC scores and number 1 in northern Nigeria, the quality was extremely poor. And on further analysis, we got briefings from DFID, the Teacher Development Program. SPIN gave us a full briefing on the state of education in Kaduna. We realized that what was happening in Kaduna State, and indeed in most of northern Nigeria, was a migration of the elite from public education towards private education. Most of the senior politicians, senior public servants, businessmen, everyone had taken his child to private schools, and nobody was looking at the quality of public education because no one's child was there. Only the children of the poorest attended public schools, and they graduated with very poor outcomes. And we felt very strongly, the top leadership of the state, we felt very strongly that something had to be done. My humble self, the deputy governor then and the deputy governor now, the chief of staff, the secretary to the state government, were all products of public education. So we asked ourselves, why did this happen? What are we going to do about it? Can we claim to be a government concerned with social justice if we do not fix public education? Because education is the only ladder for social mobility. I am sitting here, the son of nobody, because of education to a large extent. So we resolved that no matter what the political costs are, no matter what people think, we knew the value of public education, and we were committed to restoring the dignity and quality of public education. Whatever decisions, policy decisions we needed to take, whatever resources we needed to funnel into education, whatever public relations backlash we had to handle, we were all committed, the top leadership of the state, were all committed that we had to do this, to restore public education to what it used to be in the 60s, 70s, even the 80s, when some of us went through public schools. So this was the beginning. And in one word, as I said, everything was broken. Teaching became the third-rate profession. It was the default profession. You became a teacher if you could not get any other job. And even when you did get employed as a teacher, you were always looking out for greener pastures. We found that in the public service here in Kaduna State, for instance, most people with a bachelor's degree in education or NCE entered the civil service and did their best to migrate away from teaching. Because if you were a teacher, you could rise only to a certain level in the public service. So people were taking courses to convert from teaching line to administrative line or something else because it was more lucrative. And we didn't think that having the worst people in teaching was going to give us the results we wanted. We needed to get the best and the brightest in teaching. We have to get them interested. We have to pay them better. We have to give them incentives to ensure that those that bring up our children are really the best in every particular way. So we brainstormed on this very, very early in the life of the administration, and we are committed, as I said, no matter what the cost, to reform and show different results. And that's what we tried to do. This is what guided our decisions and actions in the last 4 years, and we never wavered. I referred earlier to the briefing by DFID's ESPIN program. When you have results, when you have the DFID, a department of the British government that has no interest, no political interest in these outcomes, and a program of DFID tells you that 83% of the teachers in our primary schools scored less than 25% in maths and literacy, you know that you are passing on generations of illiterates. You're creating generations of illiterates. I mean, if the teacher himself, 83%, 5 out of 6 of the teachers scored less than 25%, you know that these teachers are teaching nonsense, to use Fela Anikulapo Kuti's words. So we had a situation in which thugs were rewarded with teaching jobs, political thugs after elections. We had a situation in which people borrowed their brothers' certificates and got employed as teachers because there was no proper vetting system to even check whether they were qualified to teach. And we had 38,000 teachers, and only about 10,000 or so or less out of them had any relevant teaching qualification. Most were senior secondary school certificate failures. Some had diplomas in one field or another. That minimum teaching qualification of NCE was almost non-existent, less than 10,000 out of 38,000. Now, it was a situation that was simply unacceptable. We had to do something. And as I said, we had decided that whatever it took, we were going to do it. So we decided to first do a certificate verification. And we weeded out some that had no certificates. Then we decided to administer a competency test. And we sat down with all the stakeholders, with the teachers' unions, NLC, TUC, with the assistance of Teacher Development Program of DFID and ESPIN, and we had a teacher competency test, an exam of sorts, and we administered it to all our teachers. And during the discussions with the unions, they agreed with the committee representing the government side that the pass mark should be, I think, 50% or 60%. Now that exam was a primary 4 exam. Now by the time the results came to the State Executive Council, many members of the council were quite vehement in not accepting 50 or 60% at the cutoff. I mean, anyone that is teaching primary 1 to 6 and cannot get 100% in a primary 4 exam, you know it's not really qualified to teach. But we didn't want to appear to be perfectionists. So we said, okay, let us agree that anyone that scores 75% in the primary 4 exam, is at least trainable. Okay? So we can retain him, but as we are working with TDP and other donors, we could continue to invest in training and upgrading the skills of those. But at least if you're able to get 75%, you have a basic level of numeracy and literacy to be trainable. Yeah. Okay? So we raised the cutoff to 75%, and only 33.9% of those that took the test met the grade. So we had to take the very difficult decision of disengaging 21,780 teachers. Now, we were warned that no one that has even attempted to test teachers ever got re-elected, because we were told that Governor Kayode Fayemi of Ekiti State lost his elections because he announced that he was going to test teachers. He only announced. He didn't even test them, and he lost the re-election. But we said, well, look, to restore public education, we will pay any price. And for us, restoring public education was impossible without restoring the quality of the teacher, the dignity of the teacher, the pay of the teacher. The teacher is the center of education. A teacher can impart knowledge to a pupil even under a tree, a good teacher. It is not the building or the blackboard or the chalk or whatever that enables education to happen. It is the teacher, and we felt that whatever we needed to, we had to do. So we went ahead and did it. We were threatened with all kinds of, the Nigeria Labour Congress mobilized and came to Kaduna and carried out street protests. We ignored them. They did everything. Were invited to Abuja by the Minister of Labour to negotiate, and we made it very clear, this is not a negotiable matter. We're ready to pay any price. And we made it clear, even to the Minister of Labour at the time, that the representatives of the Nigerian Union of Teachers, they were sitting there to negotiate with us, had their children in private schools. So they lacked any moral basis to even question what we are doing. I had committed that when my young child gets to the age of 6, he will be attending a public school. This September, my son will be enrolled in a public school in Kaduna. He will not go to a private school. And I challenge anyone who was criticizing the decisions that we took to tell me if his children were attending public schools. And this is the hypocrisy of it. On the one hand, the elites have taken all their children to private schools. On the other hand, the governments that are trying to fix public education get criticized by the same elites whose children were not attending those schools. Yeah. It was only the children of the poor that were attending public schools, and the poor did not have the voice to communicate this. But we took the chance. We said, this is the right thing. We don't care about elites whose children are not in public schools anyway. We care about ordinary people who require public education as the only ladder of social mobility. And we went ahead. And of course, the results are clear. 5 of my colleagues, 5 governors, told me that they agreed with what I was doing, but they were not going to try it until they got their second term of office. So my hope is that some of them that have been elected, I will not mention names, will now do the right thing. But we did not care. We felt that if we lost election on the basis that we're trying to get teachers better pay, more qualified, trained and committed to the welfare and future of our children, it was worth losing the election. I think that was the difference. And I'm happy to say that the people of Kaduna State got the message. Okay? The ordinary people that actually vote got the message that what we are doing was fighting for them, was fighting for the future of their children. And to tell you the truth, since we did the reforms and we've hired so far about 25,000 teachers. We got rid of about 22,000. We've hired about 25,000. And we're still hiring because we want to attain a pupil-teacher ratio of 1 to 40. We are now around 1 to 50. Many parents have called me or sent me messages that they have seen the difference because now their children come back home with exercise books and homework, which they never saw in previous years. So we are quite happy with what we did. It was controversial. It made headlines for the wrong reasons, in my view. But we went out of our way and focused on explaining to the people of Kaduna State what we're doing. And I'm happy that the results of the election showed that they got it. And we're very grateful to them for their support. As I said, our focus was people of Kaduna. Okay, there are people sitting in Lagos and commenting on this. There are people sitting in Kwara and saying, oh, in Kwara State, they didn't sack teachers, they trained them. We didn't care about their views because they are not voters in Kaduna, they are not stakeholders in Kaduna. Those that matter are those in Kaduna whose children go to the schools. And we went on a public relations blaze. I was on radio programs, the Commissioner of Education, the Chairman of SUBEB. Everyone was out explaining this is what we want to do. We are not wicked people. We are sacking teachers that are not qualified and bringing those that are qualified. In fact, in terms of net employment, we are hiring more teachers than the ones that we have sacked. And we made people understand that education is a generational investment. What we are doing now will not show us immediate results. But in 20 years, in 30 years, the results will be clear. And those that are not investing in education because the results are not so clear will pay a heavy price in the future. We went, we explained. I was on radio programs, we were on call-in programs. People called to ask for explanations. We did. And so pretty much we persuaded the people of Kaduna State that we're doing the right thing. Okay? Those that are commenting from outside are free to comment. I mean, opinion is free. But those that matter are the people in Kaduna State, and I think they got it. Secondly, we also decided that from day one that we are going to develop a thick skin and we are not going to care what people say. We will explain, we will engage, we will do whatever we can, we will bring every stakeholder to the table, but we are not going to back down. Because what often happens when you do something like this and there's an uproar, people reverse themselves. We didn't. In the end, I have to commend the Nigerian Union of Teachers because the Nigerian Union of Teachers came round and commended us for what we did. They said they did not quite get where we're going, but now they get the point. They commended us. So sometimes you must have the courage to stand by your convictions. Once you debate internally and you're sure that what you're doing is right, you should just go ahead and do it and stand by what you've done. You know, of course, if someone comes up with a better idea that what you're doing is wrong, you must be open to modify that. But often in Nigeria, people that have no interest in a matter, that are not stakeholders, that have no investment in a matter, comment and raise unnecessary pressure. I mean, why should I listen to the views of someone about the sacking of unqualified teachers in public schools when I know his children are in private schools? He has no right to comment because he has no interest in the outcomes. He has already immunized his child from bad teachers, and he wants the children of his driver and his houseboy and his cook to go to this school so that their children will be cooks to his own children. That is immoral, that is wrong. And we decided that we are not going to uphold that double standard. We believe in equal opportunity for all, and we believe that the children of the poor are deserving of quality education just as the children of the rich, and we stood by it. I think the first step we took was to say anyone that joins the teaching profession can rise to grade level 17. Okay? So you are not disadvantaged merely because you're a teacher. There is no bar to your career progression. Okay, which was not what we inherited. What we inherited was a system in which once you're a teacher, you get to a certain level, level 14, or max level 16, and that's it. But now we said, you can be a classroom teacher. If you're good enough, you can be on level 17. Okay, so that helped. Secondly, we also came up with special allowances to incentivize teachers. So rural teachers get 32.5% additional allowance higher than regular public servants. So teachers' pay was enhanced. And those in urban areas got 27.5% uplift. We tried to make teaching attractive. Thirdly, we centralized the recruitment of primary school teachers under SUBEB, but bringing all stakeholders to the table. We got help from DFID, ESPIN, TDP, the World Bank's GPE program joined. We brought in the Teachers Registration Council of Nigeria, Nigerian Union of Teachers. We had an all-inclusive, all-stakeholder committee to supervise the hiring of the teachers. And we advertised. We advertised publicly, and we invited applications from all over Nigeria. We didn't limit the employment of teachers to just so-called indigents of Kaduna State, which was one of the problems. This is how teaching was politicized. When I was attending LEA CAO here, most of my teachers, even my headmaster, was not from Kaduna State. In fact, my headmaster, Julius Audu, was from what is now Kogi State. But that was my headmaster in Kaduna. That was what Kaduna used to be. We used to attract talent from all across Nigeria. My mathematics teacher was a Yoruba man from present-day Ondo State. So, but we now, what most states do is to say that they will only hire indigenes. Now, what if you don't have indigenes that are qualified to teach mathematics, for instance? You will not hire outsiders? We used to have teachers from India and Pakistan when I was going through public schools in our secondary schools. So we opened up the recruitment. We made it completely transparent. We put in incentives for teacher pay and conditions. And we also have a program which we are going to start implementing of building accommodation for teachers, particularly in rural areas, so that the headmaster, the assistant headmaster, and some of the key teachers will have accommodation near their schools. And this accommodation, by the grace of God, will be free for rural teachers, just so that rural schools will have the same quality of teachers as urban schools. So once we did that, we also ensured that there was nothing like patronage. Everyone will only be hired through that system. Local government chairmen will not hire teachers, will not allow them to hire teachers. Everything must be centralized, must be to the same standard, and must be purely on merit. Okay? We also ensured that when you are finally hired, when you are shortlisted, you'll attend an interview so that we hear you speak English and so on, and you sign your own, you write your own acceptance letter before the panel. Okay, because we found some people will come with their acceptance on their phone and we're copying those who are automatically disqualified. So we had to take extraordinary steps, bringing everyone to the table to ensure that no one had the sole responsibility to make the decision. It was a collective decision and they all must agree. And I'm happy to say that, you know, I'm sure some will fall through the cracks. No human system is perfect, but to a large extent, the feedback we are getting is that we got it right. But we got it right because neither the governor, nor the chairman of the party in the state, nor the commissioner of education is allowed to pick a person and say, hire him as a teacher without a credible and rigorous process. And as I said, we are still hiring, but following the same standard. Yeah, I think it is. I think, you know, I think this problem of teacher quality and public education is a problem everyone knows and everyone wants to solve, but people are afraid to solve it, okay? I think the system that we've put in place since 2017, by the time we do another 4 years, we have 6 years of this system. We think it will be institutionalized. And when a system is working, when the difficult decisions have been taken, when the political price has been paid by us, I don't think any sensible person will come and mess it up. I believe that we'll begin to see Kaduna State rise in the ranking for education in the next couple of years. And I do not think there will be any governor that will have any incentive to come and change it back to what it used to be. There is nothing to gain. And in any case, we are setting up all kinds of organs. We are strengthening school-based management committees. We are engaging parent-teachers associations so that they become the voice to shout if anyone comes and tries to politicize education. Our hope is that in the long term, there will be no politicization of education in Kaduna State. And our hope also is that Kaduna State's successes and the political survival of our party in the last election will send a message to everyone that education can be reformed without any heavy political price being paid. Yeah, well, the jury is still out. We will track this, we will see. But as I said, we have put in incentives to retain teachers. But you know, as long as telecoms companies, banks, and oil companies pay much higher salaries, attrition will happen. Bright people will go to where the pay is highest. There are very few people that will say, oh, I have a passion for teaching. I have always wanted to be a teacher, for instance, but I ended up doing something else because at the time I graduated from university, teaching was not that attractive. These were days when the structure adjustment program was happening, and that's when a lot of professions began to even relocate from Nigeria. So we have done what we think can work. We have a teacher salary scale that is higher than regular civil servants, but it's still lower than what the banks and oil companies and telecoms companies pay. We are putting incentives like free housing, like a mortgage system for teachers, preferential mortgage system for teachers, motorcycles for, free motorcycles for rural teachers, for instance. We'll continue to do that, hoping that that will incentivize the teachers to remain, and having removed the bar on their career progression, they can now be teaching English in primary school and still rise to grade level 17 and retire on that basis. We are hoping that this package of policy measures will increase teacher retention, but we don't know for sure. And it's a continuous search for solutions. We'll continue to look for ways and means to incentivize teachers. What we know for sure, and we are convinced at the highest levels and every level of the Kaduna State Government, is that the teacher is the key to sound public education. And whatever we have to do to make our teachers happy, particularly primary school teachers, then secondary school teachers, we will consider it within the limits of our resources. So it's a continuous search for better solutions and learning from other cultures. One of the things that we're doing, for instance, is encouraging our teachers to move from NCE. We want all our primary school teachers, for instance, to have university degrees. We would like to see most of them have masters, particularly those that are teaching in junior secondary school, because primary and junior secondary school are now much into basic education. So we'll continue to do that. We'll continue to do this investment. And our hope is that as we invest in the teachers, as we give them this financial and non-financial incentives, the attrition rate will be low and the retention rates will be high. Well, you know, I think the lesson for us, the most important lesson, is that people, ordinary people, realize the value of education. Okay? When their children don't go to school, it is because they have no choice. So when you make education free, when you provide 1 meal a day to primary school pupils, for instance, when you make secondary education free for girls, for instance, the parents notice. We have seen our enrollment in primary schools almost double since we introduced these policy measures. And when you take difficult decisions like getting rid of bad teachers, there is no political price to pay. Kaduna State has proved that. There is no price. Everyone predicted we were going to lose the election. We did not. We got almost nearly the same votes we got in 2015. And for us, that is a signal that people understand the value of education and they want their children to get good education. They want their children to get quality education at an affordable price or at no price at all, if possible. And there is nothing to fear. There is nothing to fear. Those that think that if you sack teachers, you will lose election are wrong. We have proved them wrong. Of course, you can't just do it without explaining, without advocacy, without bringing everyone to the table. But it can be done. We have done it. We have also learned that, you know, when you put in the right incentives, when you are open and transparent, the quality comes. We've got applications for teaching jobs from as far as Lagos, Imo State, Anambra State. They want to come to Kaduna. They want to teach here. They are looking for jobs, and they are quality people, and we've hired them. We are not restricting our search for talent to upgrade our educational system to just people in Kaduna State. We welcome everyone from anywhere in Nigeria. And I think that, you know, what I will say to my colleagues and politicians is that at the end of the day, what matters is what works for ordinary people. And if they understand what you're doing, no matter the propaganda, no matter the mischief, they will stand with you. They stood by us in Kaduna State, they stood with us, and we're grateful. And we'll continue to move on. We do not believe that the policies we have are perfect. As I said, we continue to search for solutions, we continue to learn, and we are open-minded. We look for help anywhere. The UK Department for International Development has done a lot in supporting us. The World Bank has done incredibly well. The GPE program, other programs of the World Bank, they have done very well in supporting us. But they are supporting us because they believe that we are committed to this. We are committed to changing the course of public education, no matter how difficult things are. And we will continue to do that. We will not let our people and we will not let ourselves down.